Hey Sparky, what should we do today? I know. Let's take over the power and the satellites. But do we have enough power? We need computing power. Let's see. Well, I think we have enough power, but oh no, one of our systems is down. We need to rebuild it. So let's do that. Well, to conquer, we need compute power. Let's get at it. Let's build this. Hey, if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name's Dennis. There we go. Okay, starting our build. We've already got our CPU cooler installed. So we're going to put in our memory. Our memory is Vengeance LPX from Corsair, 3200 megahertz. Alright, 2 times 8 gig for 16 gig of DDR4 memory. That's of course going to go in here. And we're going to have a 1 terabyte SSD. Now, I'm going with this because I just wanted to make it a good. It's a budget system. The memory, I actually got this for less than $100, like $90. And the SSD drive for 1 terabyte, I actually got it for less than $100 as well. And since I sell most of these systems, I figured, you know what? It'll sell faster, people will look at it, the price is going to be right, and it makes it more attractive. And then you're not worrying about storage. You've got 1 terabyte of storage. If you need more, you can add more on your own. You want more memory, you can add that on your own. So we're going ahead, we're going to put our memory in, we're going to put our M.2 drive in, and we'll be good. Okay, so putting in your memory, pretty straightforward. You've got a little notch in here. Okay, you got a little notch in your memory. Make sure you line that up. You can just hold it like that to see if it's in there right. If it is, put it into these slots and just line it up. If it's in there right, it should just push right down. And you should hear it click. And same thing on the other side. Now, if it's not, it could just be either you put it in wrong or you just got a stubborn clip, which is what I have. Just didn't want to do it. He's lazy. So, again, line it up here. Put her in. Make sure it goes in those slots. If you want, you can double check by looking inside. See if it's lined up with your slot. And put your thumb here just to hold it down. And okay, or you can push from one side or the other. I don't know why this is so tough. It's really odd. It did go up. There we go. And same with the other side. Maybe I'm just being too gentle. Okay, there we go. The other thing to keep in mind is make sure you populate, if it's dual channel, and most motherboards is going to be this way, slot 2 and 4 first, and then these ones. Okay, so 1 and 3. They have a different name. DIMM A1, DIMM A2, 3, 4. So check your motherboard manual first. Make sure you put them in the right spot. Typically, this is going to be what it is pretty much every time. And unless you have 4, in which case, populate all 4 and it doesn't matter. Next thing we're going to move on to is putting in our M.2 drive. So if you've never seen an M.2 drive before, there you go. That's exactly what it looks like. Okay, really small. You line up your slots with the motherboard. Your screw is going to go in to fasten it in right here. And on your motherboard, your M.2 is going to go right there. And that's the screw that it's going to probably fasten to. Okay, depends on the size of your M.2. There are different sizes. So just make sure, check before you buy it, that you get the one that's compatible with your motherboard. So putting it in, you've got the slot here, okay, on this particular motherboard. Okay, so line it up. Usually goes in at a bit of an angle. Okay, so just push it in, and it's going to go down. Now, before you do that, you have to take this screw out. Say, normally it's a precision screwdriver, so it's very tiny, but it'll go in there. The only problem with that is, of course, it's not magnetic, so you have to be very careful. But it does typically stay in place, so I'm just going to set that aside for now. Okay, we're going to put our M.2 drive back in. Again, just at a bit of an angle. Okay, wiggle it in. Get your screwdriver. You're going to push this down, line this up, and try and get my hands out of the way here. And it doesn't take very much once it's secure. This motherboard did not come with a M.2 shield or anything like that, in case you're wondering. And so we have our memory, we have our basically our hard drive, which is our M.2 drive. And so now we just have to do our software, get everything going. It should install to here without any difficulties. If you run into an issue with that, then you may have to get an M.2 enclosure to initialize the drive, and then go ahead and do it that way. Now, the way to know if that'll work out of the box is check your product when you're buying it, because what it will do is it will tell you if it's M.2 boot compatible, which typically it just means that when you put it in, it's going to recognize it right off the bat. There's no messing around with BIOS, all that kind of good stuff, and you're just going to be able to go ahead and install the operating system onto it. It's going to be recognized straight away, and you can go ahead and do what you got to do. So this is going to be the power supply I'm going to be using. It's Gigabyte's B450M. It's 80 plus bronze. It's modular, single 12 volt rail, and good ball bearing, so it's a long life. And beauty of this is it's all black, flat cables, so it's going to make it really easy to for cable management down the road. Okay, so you know we got our motherboard all put together. We did our memory, our M.2 drive, and I had previously done the CPU and CPU cooler. So now we're going to put in our power supply. Okay, so it goes in the back here, and we're going to secure it. So first thing I did was I picked out the cables that I knew I was going to need for the system for what I was putting into it. Okay, because this is a semi-modular power supply, so that's something you should think about doing first. Okay. So the first thing we do is take the plate off of the back here. Okay, they're adaptive screws, so once they get to a certain point, they'll just set there, and that's it. So you're going to fasten this to the back, and then we're going to put it back in. All right, so something to do first, I'm just going to feed all our cables in. Okay, so make sure this is going this way. All right, just so it's facing the right direction. Before we go too far, we're just going to leave it sit there a little bit, and we're going to put this on. So you'll have to line up these screws here with your power supply first, and then you'll fasten it to the case itself. So when you're putting in your screws, don't tighten them down, so you can make sure you can make any adjustments to this back plate that you need to. Then you can secure them. All right, then you'll put them all back in. Make sure they're all in there good. Okay, now you can line up your holes where they're going to go in the case and start fastening them on. Let's bring it out to see where they're at. And once you get the first one started, the rest should follow. It's pretty simple. It should be going like this. And they should all line up. And then just give them a bit of a tighten. That's it. Alright, done. Power supply's in. Okay, our cables are all tucked away in the back here. Okay, the cables from the case itself, of course, got them tucked away in the back here. And now we're going to start with putting our motherboard and everything in. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to tuck these cables in here so they don't get in the way while we're doing our build. And that's the nice thing about this shroud. Once it's all done, you're not going to be able to see those cables. So motherboard's going to go in here. First, we have to double check, make sure all the standoffs are in the right place. I have to get this cable out of the way. And you might want to undo all your case fans here now just to get them ready. Remember that this here, if you watch the review I did on the case itself, this will come off. So if you need to take this off to put on another CPU cooler later on, take that out, take this whole thing off, and then you'll have room to work. Okay, just something to keep in mind. Your RGB is addressable RGB, just so that's nice and clear so you know what you're working with. And we're gonna check all our standoffs. This is a micro ATX motherboard, so the standoffs are slightly different, so you just want to make sure when you're looking in here, you've got the markings. It tells you where all the standoffs are supposed to be. So make sure you do that and then secure. So before you put in your motherboard, you have to take your I/O shield and make sure you fit it in the back. Okay, so there's a little slot in the back here, and you just want to line that up. Make sure none of your cables or motherboard standoffs, in this case, are in the way. And then just you'll be able to pop that in place. Okay, so once you got it in there, okay, so there's nothing fancy. And make sure when you put it in, you line it up with the way your motherboard's going to go in. So something I want to show you is I got these little plastic standoffs because there's no hole for this to go into. And when you don't have that, what happens is sometimes you can have a bit of play on the inside of the case where the standoffs go, and you don't want that to bend or anything. So I bought some of these, put that in. It just happened to come in handy this particular time. So now we're going to put this in our case and we'll be good to go. So I've got the plastic standoff in here. So this can't push against the case. It'll just help to prevent any kind of short or anything like that. If you don't have one, you're probably going to be fine, but it's just an extra precaution I'd like to take. And I've got two standoffs and all screwed in now. The one that's in the case here, it will just gently go in place. The ones on the outside, okay, so you got three of them. You won't need them, okay, because of the board being so small. So I did have to adjust a couple of the standoffs, put it in against where our I/O shield goes. And now all I'm going to do now is finish putting the rest of the screws in. So once I'm done that, we'll move on to the next stage. Okay, so one of the things, I mean, with our motherboard going on, obviously the standoffs on the side, we didn't need them, but you can leave them there. And if you ever upgrade to a bigger motherboard, you just have to move a couple of these standoffs down to the bottom and you're good to go with an ATX motherboard or whatever you decide on. But with a micro ATX case, one of the things you will often run into is a lack of fan headers. So in this case, we have one system fan header right up here. But we have three fans. Solution to that is this right here. So it is a three-way fan splitter. Okay, it's 4-pin, and they all connect here. So you connect all your fans here, and then that one is going to go on your motherboard. Problem solved. And if you need more than that, then you can get a fan hub that will let you connect even more. So the next things I'm going to connect, we're going to connect our 24-pin for our power, and up in the far left, right up here in the corner, is our 8-pin power. So we're going to connect that. And something to keep in mind is you've got a SATA cable. Okay, so you make sure you have that plugged in to the SATA on your power. So if I don't have one in here, which I do, that's what this cable right here is. Okay. And because I don't have any SSD drives or anything like that, I'll wind up putting the hard drive cage. We'll go back in here. So if you want to add one in the future, you can. This is a pretty simple build, actually. So we're going to not worry about the case cables yet. So let's get our 24-pin power cable and let's just run it up. We're just going to go up in through here. Okay, we'll feed it in. I'll turn it around to show you. Now these are flat cables, so it does give us a little bit more room. All right, so we've got lots of room to play with, which is always nice. Take your little tab here. Make sure that tab lines up with the tab, which is usually on the outer side, this side here. So when you're putting it in, it goes like this. Okay, so make sure it goes up. All right, so we're going to do that. So just line it up, make sure it's going in there, but only going one way. Try to put it in the other way, it just won't go. So put it in there and just make sure it goes in. You should hear it click. There we go, we heard that little click. And if you check your tab here, will be over that little tab on the inside. If you're not sure, you can always just pull it. If it comes off, you know it's not on right. Okay, so now we're tuck these cables back in here. When we're done, hopefully we'll be able to hide them for the most part in there like that. And you should not be able to see them very well. So our next cable we're going to plug in is going to be our CPU. Okay, so that's going to go up. There's a little opening here. You have to check your case whether you have that opening or not. And just feed it in through here. And you're going to have to pull it from the other side. Okay, so bring it up in here. We'll turn it around. And same thing with the tab. Make sure this tab lines up with the tab on here. Okay, so you can just throw your finger to figure out what it is. In this case, it's on the bottom. Okay, so our tab is on the bottom. So we want our tab here, okay, to be on the bottom. So I'm just going to go ahead and plug it in. It's going to be kind of hard to show that to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. So you can see it right up here. So that's where it's plugged in. And again, we'll just tuck this as far back as we can to try and get it out of the way. You're still going to see it a little bit, but that's pretty normal. So the only thing left, again, is to connect our fans, connect our front panel connectors down here, our USB 3.0, and then I'm going to show you how to activate the USB Type-C on here. Now, I've already done a video on that, but I'll quickly show you that just so you know how to make it active. So a lot of cases will come with this SATA power. Okay, so it's obviously powering something on your case. So you do want to plug it in. So find your SATA on your power supply. Okay, it's always going to be something like this. Okay, that's what it's going to look like. Okay, take your SATA, plug it into the nearest one. You can pick whatever one you want, but line up. It has a little bit of an L shape, and you just want to put it in there. And it just goes in like this. Okay, that's all there is to it. It does tend to make cable management a little bit messy, but now if we had an SSD, we could just run the SSD up to here. We have a SATA power, SATA cable, and we'll be good to go. And same thing as if we had a mechanical hard drive down in the corner down here. So you could do that as well. So just keep it in mind. So these are our case cables. We're going to be able to do them all except, of course, this one, which is the USB Type-C, and we will save that probably to the end. No, we'll see what happens. You have your USB 3.0. One of the hardest things most people have trouble with is figuring out where all these cables go. Now, I did a video on it if you want to go back and check it. But your power LED, you have a positive and a negative. Okay, when you look on the back, there's going to be an arrow to indicate which one is the positive. Now, on this particular one, well, guess what? There's no arrow. But it is marked on the front, positive and negative. So just keep that in mind. Because these ones, when you plug them in, do matter. If you happen to plug the power in wrong, doesn't matter if you plugged it in this way or plugged in upside down, it will still work. All right, just keep that in mind. That's something people get confused on a lot. And we'll do our RGB last probably. But we're just going to go through and do all this. And I'm going to start with our little cables here. I always find those are the hardest part to do for people. So we're going to go ahead, put those in through here and hook them up. Okay, so in this case, you don't have an HDD LED. You have a power, PLED positive and negative. They're going to go in here. You just kind of have to look underneath here. Get your motherboard manual if you can't read it in order to know which ones they plug into. Okay, so I did want to show you. So if you look here, you can see positive, negative, and that's on the first two pins. And the next pin is your power switch. Okay, so that's in there. There is no HDD LED. There's no reset button on this case, so you won't have those cables. So very simple, not a whole lot to plug in. We have our USB-C, which we'll do after. I've got our fans ready to go to plug in up here. And we're going to do our HD audio. So we're only going one way. There's a blank spot. Okay, so make sure you line up that blank spot with the blank spot on here and then just plug it in. You'll notice the HD audio usually is going to point down. You won't be able to read it. So if you can read it on the top, well, somehow you got it in the wrong way. So that's the way it should go in. All right. So that cable are USB-C. Now, one of the things I didn't notice is I don't have an RGB on this motherboard. So even though the RGB will work on the front, I can't connect it. So what's going to happen is I'm going to leave it for now. We'll see what happens without it. And we're going to bring you a video. It'll come up probably a week or so from now. And I will show you what happens when you get a motherboard that does not have an RGB connector, how to make it work. So we're going to plug in our fans. Now, it turns out I only have 2 fans. The other one is through the system on the back. So you only have to plug in the one. Make sure you line up this tab with the tab here. If you line those up, you should be able to put it in there pretty simple and easy. Just like that. Now, the only thing with having this is it's kind of hard to hide those cables. So you can tie it up a little bit and tuck it in the corner, and it'll make it look a little nicer. You'll see in the end here. So I just want to show you when you're putting your graphics card, or in this case, we're going to put an adapter. Loosen these 2 screws. This will pull across, and then you can take out your screws here for your graphics card, USB-C adapter, whatever it might happen to be. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and just get it out. So just a matter of coming to the side here. I'm going to put that back in place, figure out which one it is. So this is going to be our adapter here. So it's going to be probably this one on the side here. If it's the wrong one, well, I'll put it back. Okay, so something that happened that worked out in my favor is there's a little gap here. So this is the USB Type-C adapter. Goes into the second graphics slot, because when you get the graphics card in, you can't get it this one. So you can put it in here. I'm not going to have 2 graphics cards in here, so it's not a big deal. And these cables fit in the little slot. Doesn't interfere with anything, so it makes that nice and cleaned up a bit. So, and the other nice thing is going to be, once I get my graphics card in here, you're going to hardly be able to see that cable at all. So it worked out. So here's our USB-C. There's a little spot where it plugs in on the bottom. And that's all there is to it. We're plugging in, and our USB-C will be active. Again, I've done a video on this, just on that, showing everything. So I'll put a link on the description at the end of the video, so you can have a look if you're interested in that. Okay, so just push the cable up. You'll hear it click. That's all there is to it. Now, I probably could have brought it up to here. So I might actually do that. So there's a little bit less mess, if you will. So now we're going to install our graphics card. I did remove the 2 slots in the back so that it will fit in there. So it's just a matter of lining this up. Okay, once you line it up, you push it in. This little tab should pop out. You just heard that, or should have seen that. And now it's in. Now we just got to tighten the screws. So just brought this over. So I just put this here. Okay, so it was over here. So we could do all our screwing and everything. Brought that together. And now I'm going to tighten these, put the screws back in, tighten these here. And you can hand tighten this. Okay, just hand tighten it. And then put these in. Okay, so we're nearing the end of our build. We're going to have to plug in an 8-pin power, so PCIe, into here. And that should pretty much be the end of it. Then we're going to power it on, see how much of the RGB is going to work, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so something I did forget is to show you the USB 3.0. So I got the camera down here so you can see it. So you have this little tab. You have to locate your USB 3.0, which is right here. Make sure that wherever that tab is at, you line this up, and they'll both go in, no problem. So in this case, the tab is on the top. So make sure your tab here is on the top. Line it up. Okay, so it's in there. I should have done that before I put the graphics card in. Actually, in fact, I could have taken it out, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't hurt anything. So now it's in there. The only thing left is our PCIe. So you say PCIe. Okay. It's 8-pin, so you have to take that little 2-pin on the side. Make sure you line it up. Okay. Make sure the tab goes with the way the tab is on here. And they will just go in. And again, you'll hear it click on. Make sure it's in there good. That's all there is to it. So you get this little here. It is going to be down here a little bit. I did tie it off a bit, but sometimes you're working on a case. Sometimes you just can't hide all the cables. So the only thing left now is to hook up our monitor, hook up our power, turn it on, and see what we got. So before we hook up our power, I just wanted to show you how I got all my cables. I left this a little bit loose. It'll still tuck in nice. And I left the extra cable for the, if I have another fan that I needed to connect. But the fan here is already connected. It's just the way the case has got it going. And so that's not going to be a problem. I have to cut this off. And the hard drive is in there, so if I want to add a hard drive, the RGB that I didn't have on my motherboard, I just tucked it out of the way for now. And like I say, I'll bring you a video later on showing you how to make that work. So if you run into the same situation, you'll know what to do. Okay, so providing I didn't forget anything, like turning on the power switch in the back, which I'll do now, this should start up. Okay, so we do have our RGB in the front, so that's one thing I wasn't sure of. Now this motherboard does not have a lot of RGB anyway, so not really sure what it actually controls. So if we're starting up, everything's coming up. I've already had Windows installed on the 1 terabyte drive, and as you can see, everything is coming up no problem. So I do want to show you the RGB a little bit better. So you can have a look at that. Now you can control your RGB in the front with this button that's here to change the different colors. If you look at the case review, which I'll link in the description at the end, you'll be able to see all that. All right, everybody, so that's the build, kind of a part build, I guess you will. So I usually do the part by part by part, and then I put them all into the case, show you how it all works, show you everything there. And as you can see, when you put it into an actual case, you can find out some of the things that maybe you missed, like an RGB header. So what do you do when you don't have one? So we're going to go through, we're going to play with it, we're going to have another video showing how to fix that. Same as the USB adapter, which I've already done a video on, case review, all that kind of good stuff. It'll all be on the end. You can go in and have a look at each one of those if you want more information in more detail and closer up so you can see all the little nitty gritty. And yeah, so if you like that video, hit that like. If you don't, you know what to do. If you have a question or a comment, throw it my way. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And hit that bell for future notifications to see upcoming videos. And if you're new here, think about subscribing. Thanks for watching. Now, where are those satellites? We'll find out. Elon, I'm coming for you. Bye.